You've spent years kneeling to your own hesitation, letting fear dictate every move. That weakness disguised as caution has been the chains keeping you irrelevant. Stop begging. Self-doubt has been your prison, invisible but ironclad. You've been staring at the world through a distorted lens, convinced hesitation is virtue, caution is wisdom. It is neither. Every decision you delayed, every opportunity you surrendered was a silent admission. You are not ready to play the game. Others have already mastered. This chapter is surgical. Its purpose is to strip away the comforting illusions and make you confront how your indecision has made you small, invisible, and predictable. By the end, you will no longer see the world as a passive observer. You will perceive it as a field of predators, each move measured, each weakness exposed. To reclaim control, you must first understand the optics of power. Self-doubt is a filter that blurs reality, giving you the illusion of safety while stripping agency. You hesitate because the world has never taught you that waiting is surrender. Think of it as a battlefield. Hesitation is a wound that never heals, and each moment you delay, the enemy, those who act decisively, extends their territory at your expense. Recognizing your role as a passive participant is uncomfortable, but essential. Survival in this arena is not for the timid or the sentimental. Next, examine the subtle ways self-doubt has shaped your identity. It manifests as compliance, as overthinking, as a constant need for approval. These are not neutral traits, they are chains. They disguise themselves as prudence, politeness, or moral integrity, but they function to keep you subordinate. You must begin to see your hesitation as what it truly is, a liability, an internal predator feeding off your potential. This is the first step in reclaiming the lens, understanding that your own mind has been your greatest oppressor. Now begin the mental restructuring. Shift your perspective from "what if I fail" to "who benefits if I do nothing?" This is not motivation, it is analysis. The world does not pause for indecision. Every moment spent in doubt allows others to consolidate power while you remain stagnant. By framing your life in this stark predator-prey paradigm, you rewire perception. Hesitation is weakness, action is dominance. You begin to see patterns, to spot openings, to anticipate moves before they are made. This is the lens of control. Finally, internalize this. Reclaiming the lens is not an act of heroism. It is an act of survival. You do not do this to feel better about yourself. You do it because the alternative is irrelevance. By the end of this chapter, your self-perception has shifted. You are no longer merely the subject of life's currents. You are the observer capable of exploiting them. Your mind, once shackled by doubt, is now the instrument of quiet, surgical control. Control is rarely a scream. It is a shadow that moves through every decision, every interaction, leaving its mark without being seen. Most people imagine dominance as loud, confrontational, or violent, but true power whispers. It infiltrates systems, manipulates perceptions, and shapes behavior before the target even realizes they've been guided. In this chapter, you will understand the mechanics of subtle authority, how the world bends for those who act quietly but decisively, and why self-doubt leaves you vulnerable to invisible chains. The core psychological mechanism at work is influence without awareness. When you exit self-doubt, you stop reacting to external pressures. That is when control begins to return, not through force, but by recalibrating how you move in the world. Others feel the shift subconsciously. Hesitation disappears, posture changes, eye contact sharpens, and decisions are executed without delay. To them it may seem like instinct, but it is methodical. This is the quiet grip, a force operating below the threshold of consciousness, shaping outcomes and bending social dynamics to your favor. Control is amplified by invisibility. Loud attempts at dominance provoke resistance. Subtle influence breeds compliance. Historical manipulators understood this instinctively. Machiavelli wrote that the prudent ruler secures power not by spectacle, but by positioning himself where others' choices are constrained by his presence, often without them realizing it. Your self-doubt blinded you to this principle. You acted openly, hesitated, sought approval, and gave away leverage. Quiet control requires patience, observation, and strategic restraint. It is the predator's art, not the braggart's. At the behavioral level, regaining control involves a combination of observation, timing, and precise intervention. Observe who reacts, who submits, who challenges. Every interaction is data. Every hesitation you avoid strengthens your authority. Do not confuse this with charm or friendliness. Those are luxuries for the naive. Authority manifests in clarity, consistency, and the absence of desperation. By acting from this detached vantage point, you reclaim the environment around you, and others, unwittingly, fall into patterns you can exploit. This chapter will also force you to confront a harsh truth. People fear control more than they respect it. When you shed self-doubt, some will resist, some will envy, and some will attempt to manipulate you as you once did them. The quiet grip neutralizes this threat. You do not argue. You do not coerce. You move, and the world conforms around the inevitability of your presence. Power is returned not because you demand it, but because you no longer ask permission. By the end of this chapter, you will understand that control is not a state, it is a mechanism, a psychological infrastructure that operates invisibly. Exiting self-doubt is the key to activating it. Hesitation collapses, awareness sharpens, influence spreads quietly but inexorably. You become the architect of outcomes, not a participant in their chaos. This is not a victory lap. It is a recalibration of survival, dominance, and inevitability. Powerlessness is rarely accidental. It is patterned, predictable, and visible to anyone who understands human behavior. In this chapter, you will recognize the archetypes you've unconsciously mirrored, those behaviors that have kept you trapped in hesitation, submission, and irrelevance. By identifying them, you confront the truth. Your past weakness was never a fluke. It was a reflection of deep, recurring patterns that signal expendability. The first archetype is the hesitant observer. This is the person who waits for permission, who questions every move, who constantly analyzes without acting. You may recognize this in yourself. Indecision masquerades as prudence. Yet every moment of delay signals to others that you are dispensable. Opportunities slip past. And predators, those who act without pause, claim what should have been yours. Survival demands you stop calculating for comfort and start calculating for advantage. The second is the compliant loyalist. These are individuals who prioritize approval over action, allegiance over judgment. They seek validation from every authority, not because they are honorable, but because fear drives them to anchor their identity in external approval. Self-doubt feeds this archetype. It convinces you that submission is safe. The truth is brutal. Loyalty in the absence of power is a trap. Those who follow blindly are the first to be discarded when the tides shift. The third is the over-apologetic weakling. Words like sorry and maybe have been your constant companions. Every apology is a confession of inferiority. Every hesitation a public declaration of your limits. This archetype attracts predators because it signals predictability and malleability. To regain control, you must unlearn the reflex to justify, excuse, or diminish yourself. Apologies should only be used as weapons of leverage, not armor for insecurity. Next, observe how these archetypes interact. When multiple weak patterns cluster in a single individual, they create a feedback loop of dependence, hesitation, and invisibility. People who embody these traits rarely rise to positions of influence. Instead, they orbit around those who act decisively, becoming tools, distractions, or scapegoats. Recognizing these patterns in yourself is not about shame. It is tactical awareness. Only by confronting the blueprint of your past powerlessness can you dismantle it. Finally, internalize this. Escaping self-doubt is not just about action. It is about shedding these archetypes entirely. You must replace hesitation with instinctive decision, compliance with strategic autonomy, and over-apology with calculated precision. The predator does not plead. He calculates. By discarding these patterns, You reclaim the psychological terrain that fear once dominated. You transform from predictable prey into an observer capable of quiet, surgical influence. By the end of this chapter, the viewer will no longer see weakness as incidental. They will see it as archetypal, structured and correctable. Recognition becomes the first weapon. Understanding the enemy is always step one. Your identity is malleable. Your patterns are not permanent. Those who adapt survive. Those who cling to old scripts are left behind. The world belongs to those who understand the unspoken rules of dominance. Loud victories are rare. Subtle, invisible control is the weapon of survival. In this chapter, you will see that history's true winners, those whose names echo in influence, did not rely on brute force alone. They mastered the quiet manipulation of circumstance, timing, and human behavior. By examining their methods, you will understand that power is earned in the shadows, and hesitation is a death sentence. Consider the tacticians who reshaped nations without ever drawing a sword, the advisors who whispered counsel that shifted empires, the diplomats whose decisions created irreversible advantage. Their power was not declared. It was absorbed by the world because they acted before anyone questioned the outcome. Self-doubt, indecision, and the need for validation would have destroyed them if allowed. Their brilliance was not charisma, nor their success luck. It was the precise control of perception, timing, and consequence. Now observe human nature itself. People are predictably weak when confronted with subtle manipulation. Fear, envy, and desire can be directed like currents in water. Those who act without hesitation exploit this. When you exit self-doubt, you position yourself as the invisible architect of outcomes. Every interaction, every decision becomes a lever. Every hesitating competitor is a tool you may exploit or a threat you may neutralize. History proves that those who recognize these dynamics ascend quietly, while the loud, indecisive, and overly moral fall first. Let's break it down further with examples. In corporate hierarchies, the subtle manipulator shifts alliances, frames narratives, and controls the perception of competence. In military history, victories are often decided not by open combat, but by preemptive positioning, intelligence, and psychological pressure. The silent winners, those who anticipate and act, ensure that control is returned to them almost imperceptibly. Much like you will once, self-doubt no longer dictates your moves. Each example reveals a brutal truth. The world bends to those who act with certainty, not to those who wait for permission. Finally, understand the lesson embedded in human history. Control is never given, it is seized quietly. Hesitation is the gift you hand to others. By observing patterns in both past and present, you learn to exploit the predictability of human weakness. You see the predators, the compliant, the indecisive, and you understand your new role. Exiting self-doubt is not a victory lap. It is alignment with the inevitability of dominance. You are not merely reclaiming your agency. You are re-entering the stream of silent winners who manipulate the currents around them with surgical precision. By the end of this chapter, you will grasp that history favors the decisive, that subtle control is more potent than visible power, and that hesitation guarantees obsolescence. You will no longer look at the world as a passive participant, but as a field of strategic opportunity, where timing, perception, and quiet action determine survival. You are no longer irrelevant. You are the silent architect of outcomes waiting to be claimed. Exiting self-doubt is only the beginning. Regaining control requires a precise, tactical approach. In this chapter, you will learn to move with the quiet, surgical efficiency of a predator, turning awareness into authority, hesitation into leverage, and observation into domination. This is not about inspiration or motivation. It is about actionable strategy. Every behavior, every decision, every word becomes a tool to quietly reclaim the power you've lost. First, establish psychological positioning. Your presence alone communicates authority once hesitation is gone. Speak with brevity, act with certainty, and remove all signals of doubt. The moment you waver, others sense vulnerability and attempt to exploit it. Tactical reclamation demands that every interaction, projects, clarity, and inevitability. This is not arrogance, it is survival. Think of it as invisible armor. Your certainty shields your intentions while your subtlety manipulates outcomes. Next, leverage observation. Watch how others respond to your absence, to your decisions, and to subtle shifts in behavior. Data is the silent weapon of dominance. Who resists? Who yields? Who mirrors your hesitation? Map patterns, anticipate reactions, and exploit predictable weaknesses. The world is malleable for those who understand it. Hesitation and indecision are the only true limits. Every act of quiet control reinforces the perception of competence and authority, which compounds your influence without confrontation. Now, implement strategic influence. Small, deliberate actions often yield greater control than bold, obvious moves. Redirect conversations, shape decisions, and orchestrate outcomes from the shadows. Like a chess master, anticipate 2 moves ahead. The key is invisibility. You gain more by guiding than by forcing. Subtle signals, timing, posture, selective engagement. Shift dynamics without alerting rivals to your hand. Each maneuver consolidates power quietly, returning the control once stolen by self-doubt. Behavioral recalibration is essential. Exit apologetic tendencies. Eliminate over-explaining. Stop seeking approval. Every second spent justifying or hesitating is an opportunity lost. Replace reflexive doubt with measured action. This is not moral, it is survival. You are not seeking validation. You are reclaiming territory. Your moves must feel inevitable to observers, even as they are meticulously calculated. Hesitation is the predator's vulnerability. Never exhibit it. Finally, understand the psychological impact on others. Your newfound quiet authority unsettles competitors, exposes opportunists, and redraws social hierarchies without confrontation. People will unconsciously defer, yield, and comply. Your control is reinforced precisely because it is subtle. Others will perceive your decisions as natural, inevitable, and correct. Tactical reclamation is not aggressive domination. It is inevitability projected through action, observation, and refined presence. By the end of this chapter, the viewer will understand how to convert self-assured presence into influence, hesitation into leverage, and observation into power. They will know how to reclaim their environment and assert authority without alerting rivals. This is the surgical stage, quiet, ruthless, and unavoidable. Exiting self-doubt is not enough. To truly reclaim power, you must execute the version of yourself that hesitated, second-guessed, and sought approval. That identity, comfortable in weakness, served only to delay your dominance. In this chapter, you will learn to surgically remove it, leaving space for a new self, detached, decisive, and sovereign. This is not reinvention. It is enforced evolution, a necessary elimination of all traits that made you prey. Begin with recognition. The old you is predictable. Every hesitation, apology, and moment of self-loathing has left a trail for others to exploit. Those patterns are no longer compatible with control. They must be observed, acknowledged, and then discarded. Think of it as pruning a tree. Every branch that weakens the structure is cut away to allow strength to flourish. Emotion, sentiment, and morality are weeds in this garden. They must be removed ruthlessly. Next, cultivate the new self through deliberate detachment. Decisions are no longer clouded by fear, loyalty, or expectation. You act with precision, driven by strategy rather than comfort. This identity operates quietly, imposing influence without dramatics, observing without attachment, and calculating without hesitation. Every interaction reinforces your presence, your inevitability. The old self, submissive, hesitant, apologetic, is gone, and the new self commands without announcing, dominates without threat, and survives without reliance. Behavioral restructuring follows naturally. You replace over-apology with selective concession. Hesitation is replaced by decisive action. Approval-seeking is replaced by outcome-driven calculation. These are not minor adjustments. They are fundamental rewiring. Your mind, once a repository of doubt, becomes an instrument of silent dominance. Others will notice the shift, even if they cannot articulate it. The respect, compliance, and deference you receive are byproducts of inevitability, not charm or charisma. Finally, understand the permanence of this transformation. The old identity cannot be revived. Attempting to merge it with the new will dilute authority and invite exploitation. Identity execution is brutal but necessary. It is the surgical removal of weakness to allow sovereignty. You will now move through the world not as a follower, but as an architect of outcomes. Self-doubt, indecision, and overcompliance are buried. Strategic presence, quiet control, and calculated influence remain. By the end of this chapter, the viewer will inhabit a new reality. They are no longer a victim of hesitation. They are the silent surgical force shaping perception, manipulating outcome, and reclaiming territory with inevitability. The execution of the old self is complete, and the reborn identity is sovereign, precise, and untouchable. This is the apex of psychological control. Dominance returned, quietly, surgically, permanently. By now, control has returned quietly, but the world does not pause for the hesitant. In this chapter, you will confront the brutal reality. Survival and dominance are not universal rewards. They are privileges earned only by those willing to execute, adapt, and abandon weakness. This is the final warning, the selection test. Those who fail to act decisively remain prey. Consider the consequences of inaction. Every day spent clinging to hesitation strengthens rivals, cements social hierarchies, and signals to predators that you are expendable. History is littered with individuals who delayed, who overthought, who sought approval, and were removed quietly, efficiently, inevitably. The lesson is clear. Control abandoned once is rarely returned voluntarily. You must maintain vigilance and never again allow the chains of self-doubt to reattach. This chapter forces recognition of the elite few. Power is not a right. It is a meritocracy defined by ruthlessness, precision, and emotional detachment. Observation alone is insufficient. Action is mandatory. The world tests, manipulates, and selects. Those who act decisively, quietly, and strategically are rewarded. Those who cling to old patterns are discarded. Exiting self-doubt is only the entry ticket. You must now prove that dominance is not just reclaimed but maintained, sharpened, and extended. Strategically, this means perpetual awareness and calibration. Your identity, now reborn, must operate as both shield and weapon. Observe weakness in others, exploit hesitation, and anticipate resistance. Authority is reinforced by subtle, repeated influence, never by desperation, apology, or display. Every interaction becomes a micro-battle for perception, a demonstration of inevitability. Only the vigilant retain control. Only the ruthless expand it. Finally, internalize this. The world rewards no one for comfort. Self-doubt returns to test you. Rivals will attempt to undermine the quiet authority you have reclaimed. Allies will hesitate. The battlefield of influence is endless. To survive, to dominate, to be remembered, you must embrace the role of silent, surgical sovereign. This is not about morality, motivation, or redemption. It is about selection. You either act decisively and remain elite, or fade quietly into irrelevance. By the end of this chapter, the viewer is left with a stark truth. Sovereignty is a constant, relentless pursuit. Exiting self-doubt was the first victory. Maintaining quiet control is the ongoing war. Hesitation is fatal. Indecision is fatal. Only surgical precision, ruthless observation, and perpetual strategic action guarantee survival in the arena of dominance. The choice is yours: adapt and ascend, or linger in irrelevance.